when I have seen our Navy's flag flying on the bridge and the barrack. It was strange in this Chinese environment, but one gets used to it quickly and wishes that if only our homeland's trade and industry would take part in opportunity to seize this piece of land. Jesu 1904. When was the last territory of Austria-Hungary finally carved up? 1918 would be the truthful answer, but there was, and perhaps this is a stretch, a few acres of land held by the dual monarchy until it was officially given up to China in 1920. Yes, indeed, German and Austro-Hungarian concessions may have been occupied by the Chinese in 1917, but after the entrance of that nation into the Entente, they weren't actually incorporated into the Italian concession until 1927. Austria-Hungary was a domestic-focused empire, yet an empire nonetheless. Overseeing the many subjects of His Imperial and Royal Majesty Franz Joseph occupied much of the empire's attention, but there was one little exception to this rule. Austria-Hungary had concluded their first official treaty with the Qing in 1869 and had generally been uninterested after that point. However, the increasing presence of France, Britain, Russia, Italy, and her ally Germany in the sick man of Asia throughout the latter half of the century of humiliation coincided with the Sino-Japanese War in 1894. Enter the two most important men for Habsburg policy in the Far East, Count Golhuchowski and the delegate and plenipotentiary minister in Beijing, Moritz Baron Chikon von Weilborn. Not wishing to be outclassed by the other great powers in the Chinese theater, an article was published on the front page of the Neue Freie Presse on March 11, 1899, advocating an expansionist policy in China. We have no doubt that the thought that Austria-Hungary could join the other powers and, while the other sees the opportunity, also claim a share of the Chinese spoils, is consistent with Austrian feeling. Austria in China. Only at first glance does this synthesis sound, as we may call it, exotic. It is possible that this may have been a secret initiative undertaken by Golchowski and von Weilborn. This is the important background knowledge as we move towards the year 1900 and the most important event to occur in that pivotal moment. The Boxer Uprising began as a result of a series of natural calamities, economic impoverishment, and aggressive imperial influence in China. Aimed at driving out the foreigners, the Yiquan, righteous and harmonious fists, broke out into open rebellion, supported by the Empress Dowager Cixi, and began a rampage through the country attacking missionaries and Chinese Christians. An international force consisting of Britain, France, Russia, Germany, Austria-Hungary, Italy, Japan, and the United States, the Eight-Nation Alliance, was brought together for a military intervention to put down the uprising and relieve the besieged foreign quarter of Peking. The Austro-Hungarians sent several ships to China, including the SMS Kaiserin and Königin Maria Therese, SMS Kaiserin Elizabeth, SMS Aspern, and a company of Marines. 14 sailors were present in Peking during the famous 55-day siege, and the aforementioned ships took part in the shelling of key Chinese ports. Lieutenant Georg Ludwig von Trapp, who served as a submarine commander for Austria-Hungary during the First World War, and became famous in the musical The Sound of Music after World War II, was decorated for bravery aboard SMS Kaiserin and Königin Maria Therese during the rebellion. Austro-Hungarian Marines participated in the defense of the Tianjin Railway, the boarding of 4 Chinese destroyers with Captain Roger Keyes, of HMS fame, and the seizure of the Taku forts. Austro-Hungarian ships also participated in the destruction of several armed junks upon the high river near Tongchao. Following the revolt, a detachment of Marines was maintained in addition to the permanent presence of a cruiser. As a result of the intervention, Austria-Hungary occupied the concession awarded to them on February 11, 1901. The concession was not formally integrated until 20th December 1904. This was done in exchange for the liquidation of the Austro-Hungarian compensation claims. Within the concession were located a variety of buildings and amenities, including baths, a theater, pawn shop, school, barracks, prison, cemetery, and hospital. 30,000 souls resided within the assigned territory and were citizens of Austria-Hungary and subjects of the Kaiser. A town council of local nobles carried out administrative duties, which was headed by the Austro-Hungarian consul and military commander, who possessed the majority vote. The architectural legacy of the concession is still quite apparent to this day. Ultimately, the concession was split between the Italians and Chinese after the First World War, resulting in borders which lasted until 1947, if I recall correctly, when the Italian concession was finally given back to the Chinese. Today, of course, the entirety of the former Austro-Hungarian concession is located within the People's Republic of China. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, consider subscribing. And if you want to see more content related to this or some of the older stuff I did, stick around. Thanks.